Here are 9 amazing podcasts that could be extremely beneficial to a college student. In this video, I'll explain briefly what each podcast is about, whether it's accessible on popular platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast, and if it is transcribed or not. That is, whether you can read the transcript of the podcast or not. It may be useful to those who are hard of hearing, and it is sometimes a faster method to get through a podcast episode. Aside from that, I'll also share the ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and suggest 2 to 3 episodes for those overwhelmed souls who may not know where to begin because most of these podcasts have a lot of episodes. Let's get started. Number 1, Huberman Lab Podcast by Professor Andrew Huberman of Stanford University School of Medicine. He discusses almost everything that can improve your daily life, like fitness, mental health, habits, creativity, learning, sleep, etc. He also invites other professors and experts from a variety of fields. In a sense, the podcast is like an expert simplifying complexities of everyday issues. All of his episodes are quite long, but each one of them have a wealth of information. You can find this podcast on all 3 popular platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. All of the episodes are transcribed except the recent few, but all of them have timestamps so you can jump or rewatch certain portions of the podcast. This is the highest rated podcast on this list with 5-star rating on Spotify and 4.9 on Apple Podcast. 3 episodes that you can start with, especially from a college student perspective, are episode 39, Controlling Your Dopamine for Motivation, Focus, and Satisfaction, episode 53, The Science of Making and Breaking Habits, and finally, episode 84, Sleep Toolkit, Tools for Optimizing Sleep and Sleep Wake Timing. As mentioned, Professor Huberman shares wealth of information. Sometimes you might forget what exactly was mentioned in the podcast. In this case, this AI tool could be pretty useful. It allows you to search for topics within the episodes and get answers to science and health related questions. It also provides time-stamped YouTube links for relevant episode. For example, I remember listening about brown noise and don't exactly remember what it was. I would just write in this AI tool and voila, I could read sections of the podcast where brown noise was mentioned. Or I could ask a question like, how much should a person sleep? And once again, I would have an answer, and all the episodes with timestamps where Professor Huberman talked about sleep. Pretty cool, right? Number 2, The Psychology of Your 20s by Gemma Speck. I hope I'm not mispronouncing her name. Pardon me if I am. Gemma is a psychology grad living in Australia. Each episode explains the psychology behind experiences or phenomena or challenges that almost everybody in their 20s go through. She provides such great insight into every aspect of young adulthood, including anxiety, dating, friendship, rejection, etc. The podcast is like listening to a friend who might have gone through something similar. As a result, it's a podcast that you might find quite relatable. You can find this podcast on all 3 platforms. On Spotify and Apple Podcasts, it is rated at 4.8 stars. Here are 3 recommendations in no particular order. Episode 37, How to Develop Emotional Intelligence in Your 20s. Episode 46, Making Friends in Your 20s. Episode 80, Why You Should Take Risk in Your 20s. Number 3, How to Get the Most Out of College by Elliot Felix. Here's a book of the same name. In each episode, he invites students or higher education experts to share their perspective, tips, and practical advice to help you navigate various aspects of your college life. Each episode explores into a tip or a topic from his book, supported by various viewpoints, practical advice, and personal experiences of the guest. Few of the episodes might only be relevant to the students residing or studying in the United States, but there are some tips and couple of episodes that could benefit almost every college student. You can find this podcast on all 3 platforms. It does not have any rating on Spotify, but it is rated 5-star on Apple Podcast. 3 episodes that you can check out right now are Episode 11, Bonus Episode Designing Your College Experience, Episode 20, Building Your Support Network with Andrea Malkin-Brenner, Episode 25, Designing a Life and Career Path with Julia Lang. Number 4, 7 Good Minutes Self-Improvement Podcast by Clyde Lee Dennis. A podcast for, and I quote the website, self-improvement tips, life skills training, and inspiration you need as you work towards achieving your goals. An episode is released every day and is only 7 minutes long. Sometimes an episode might feature a well known teacher or a speaker with their best motivational or inspiring advice. Start your day with this easy and straight to the point podcast to get off to the right start. It is available on all three podcast platforms that I have mentioned. They used to have some show notes for every episode, but not anymore, I guess. It is rated 4.7 and 4.6 on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, respectively. All the episodes are super short. I would suggest pick any. Maybe you can start from the most recent one. Number 5, The Daily Stoic Podcast by Ryan Holiday. The podcast name and the concept are based on the book The Daily Stoic, 366 Meditation on Wisdom, Perseverance, and the Art of Living by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. A podcast that is based on the ancient philosophy of Stoicism that offers some valuable life lessons to help you figure out everyday life. It would be really hard to summarize the philosophy of Stoicism in a couple of lines, but you can read Ryan Holiday's blog post on Stoicism or any other article that suits you before listening to this podcast. It is quite a powerful and dynamic philosophy. The podcast is available on all three platforms and have a 4.7 rating on Spotify and 4.6 on Apple Podcast. The three episodes that you can listen right now to get started are: Number 1, 5 life changing journaling habits from the Stoics. Number 2, 7 life changing Stoic ideas that you can practice daily. And finally, number 3, how much longer are you going to wait? Turn words into works. Number 6, TED Talks Daily, hosted by journalist Elise Hu. If you are familiar with the TED Talks, you'll recognize that the podcast will cover a wide range of thought provoking ideas or topics from artificial intelligence to biology, zoology, and everything in between, delivered by the world leading thinkers and creators. This podcast can help you pique your interest on certain topics or help you learn more about something that interests you. The podcast is available on all three platforms, that is Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. You can access each episode's transcript as well. It is rated 4.6 and 4.1 on Spotify and Apple Podcast, respectively. It is hard to recommend episodes from TED Talks Daily because, as mentioned, the podcast covers a wide variety of topics. Choose any topic of your interest. Number 7, Exam Study Expert by psychologist and researcher William Wadsworth. The podcast, and I quote, dive into the secrets of academic success. Topics range from how to work smarter, how to study effectively, how to get good grades, some memory techniques, and exam preparation tips. All of these topics are quite important from the perspective of a college student. He also invites some great experts. You can find this podcast on all three popular platforms and it is rated 4.7 on both Spotify and Apple Podcast. Here are 3 episodes you can listen right now. First, episode 3, How to Study, 2 seriously powerful ways to improve memory. Number 2, episode 10, Study Hacks, 10 practical tips to cut your study hours and boost your grades. Finally, number 3, episode 59, Pomodoro Masterclass, ultimate guide to the student's favorite technique. On number 8, we have Tiny Leaps, Big Changes, hosted by Greg Clunis. I hope that's how the name is pronounced. This is also the name of the Greg Clunis books, Tiny Leaps, Big Changes, Everyday Strategies to Accomplish More, Crush Your Goals, and Create the Life You Want. The core idea of the podcast is, and once again I quote, all big changes come from the small decisions we make every day. It is a personal development podcast focused on exploring day to day behaviors we all engage in that determine the results we gain in our lives. Most of the episodes are quite short, like under 20 minutes, with some simple and actionable advice. The podcast is available on the 3 popular platforms that I mentioned and is rated 4.7 on Spotify and 4.3 on Apple Podcast. The podcast was transcribed way back, but sadly not anymore. The 3 episodes you might enjoy, especially from a college student perspective, are episode 864, Meditation 101, a beginner's guide, episode 783, How to Avoid Overwhelm, and episodes 711 and 712, How to Practice Emotional Self-Care. Finally, number 9, The Science of Happiness, hosted by Decker Keltner, who is a professor of psychology at University of California, Berkeley, who is also the founding director of the Greater Good Science Center. It might come as a surprise to some that there is a whole science behind happiness. The podcast offers research based strategies for a happier, more meaningful life, drawing on the science of compassion, gratitude, mindfulness, etc. You can also check out the online course, The Science of Happiness, on the edX website. This is one of the courses I would recommend you to take as a college student, irrespective of the subject you are studying. The podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. You can find the transcript on their website as well. It is rated 4.8 and 4.4 on Spotify and Apple Podcast respectively. Three episodes that you can check out right now are how to practice gratitude when you're not feeling thankful, how to say sorry like you mean it, and finally, feel better about asking for help. Before you go, I have three suggestions for you related to podcast. Find a podcast that shares political news of your country. It is important to be aware of what is happening in your own country, even if you don't want to know what's happening in the world. Find a podcast that covers politics and national news. My second suggestion to you is podcasts are just another way of gaining information. So don't shy away from taking notes while listening to some great podcast. And finally, my third suggestion is share some podcasts that you can think could benefit other college students. Good students don't gatekeep such useful resources. I will be waiting for your comments. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.